apparently, Sam Seder and Dennis Prager had a debate on everyone's favorite subject, Israel.
Ron, hello.
Hi, Dennis. Thanks so much for taking my call. I think I told your screener that my kid is in college, and there are protests going on there, and needless to say, Thanksgiving was a little bit rough.
Go on.
Well, my child, I don't want to say the...
Gotta say right off the bat that, you know, sort of judging from a small segment here, but Dennis Prager really doesn't have that radio charisma, does he?
My son doesn't appreciate what's going on in Israel at all, and doesn't understand what the dynamics are there, and it is increasingly a problem is what's going on these campuses.
That's right.
Anti-Semitism is a problem in this country. It is rising. I'm not sure if I subscribe totally to the idea that it's a function of secularism because, you know, obviously the Spanish Inquisition, we had a lot of anti-Semitism that existed before any type of secular movement.
In the United States it is. I make it clear in the column. You're right. American Christianity was totally different from European Christianity.
This is very true, and you should take his word for it. American Christianity has never been anti-Semitic. Please never look into the history of this. Never Google the subject. Just keep moving forward.
When my parents and my grandparents came over in the 1800s, they had to change their name. They couldn't get insurance. This was not a function, and they were very pious.
Oh, so you're Jewish? Okay, that's interesting. So the fact is, however, that you're right. Compared to a truly perfect society, it was a failure. Compared to every other society, why did they flee their society and come to America? If you would have asked your grandparents, are you happy you came to America, even though it was harder to get insurance? They probably would have laughed at you.
Oh, well, no, of course.
I'm sorry, is Prager's argument that the anti-Semitism here is better than it was in Nazi Germany?
They left because of pogroms, but they weren't secular in Russia at that time, or Lithuania.
No,
or
you're right.
I've
said all of my life to American Jews, my fellow Jews, that the European Christianity was not the same as American Christianity.
What does this mean, by the way? I gotta know. I gotta know what this means. What do you mean, like Catholicism versus Protestant? What do we mean?
This was a different country. This was a different form of Christianity.
Well, I agree. I agree. You know, you have someone like John Hagee speaking at the rally for Israel. I think was frankly an abomination. I mean, I wasn't.
John Hagee. That's the crazy Nazi preacher guy, right?
For John Hagee speaking there, he has a record.
I was.
Well, even John McCain.
I thought it was a great choice. I know him very well. Back in a moment.
Okay.
That's it. That's the length of time before an ad break.
So your last comment was that you were distressed that at the rally in Washington for Israel, they had Pastor Hagee speak, correct?
I never totally agreed with John McCain about all things, but when he distanced himself in 2008 from Hagee, I thought that was the right thing to do.
And the reason?
Well, I don't think the idea that, and this is what Hagee believes, obviously not what I believe, or I would imagine not what you believe, is that Hitler was sent by God to push Jews to Israel. And I mean, I understand the Christian prophecy that we as Jews are a part of that.
I'm sure you're annoyed when Christians think you're going to hell because you don't believe in Christ. So why are you annoyed with John Hagee for his religious beliefs?
So this is what a Jew who's hell-bent on allying with the farthest right contingent of American Christians has to do and say. He has to appeal to the concept of religious tolerance to argue that you shouldn't judge a person for believing that Hitler was sent to Earth by God to send Jews to Jerusalem. That's the level you have to be on. If your job is this whole Judeo-Christian bit, like forever, then this is the kind of shit you have to cook.
If indeed that's what he said, I have reviewed it. It's not fully clear to me, but let's say he said that. God sent Hitler. My father who was an Orthodox Jew and fought Hitler in the U.S. Navy for 3 years, believed that God sent Hitler because he couldn't believe that the Holocaust just happened and God watched it. There are a lot of Jews.
Yes, but that is
okay. So fine.
It's almost as though it's really weird and kind of fucked up that religious people sort of like have a free pass to give religious justification to historical events or anything that happens, you know? It's kind of like the big history civilization version of when something really fucked up happens and a person is like, yeah, God is testing me. They're not. You're just going through a rough time, man.
Because I think what it breeds is a type of singular nationalism in Israel, which has left Jews unsafe. The road that could have been taken with Zionists, we know that there was a strand of Zionist thought. No, not Israel. I'm saying certain elements within Israel, because we know there was Zionist thought starting in the late 1800s into the early 1900s, where the idea of a multi-ethnic, multi-religious democracy could have taken hold. Folks like Buber and Hannah Arendt espoused. Instead, we have a fascist...
don't be shocked that your child has taken your ideas.
This is a new debate tactic. I have to learn from this one. I have to find a way to make ad breaks happen to the people I'm on call with, too.
Okay, so just a final word here. I rarely keep somebody on so long, but I thought that was valuable. God knows I thank you for your call and your openness.
Thank you.
But with your views with regard to Israel, it's not shocking that your son would have participated in anti-Israel demonstrations.
Sam Seder's like, I don't feel comfortable associating with this guy who said Hitler was sent by God to hunt us, who thinks the Antichrist is Jewish. And Dennis Prager's like, well, based on your beliefs, I would say your son would turn out to be a liberal.
At college.
Well,
I know you wouldn't, and I fully appreciate that, but he didn't come from a home that made peace with Israel as a national Jewish project.
Dude, he's so fucking cucked. You're literally you're not a real Jew unless you get along with the fucking evangelical mega preacher who thinks the Antichrist will be Jewish. Look, in a way, I feel like this is a good reminder of how fucking cucked Zionism is conceptually and how little it has to do with Judaism, you know? Like, this guy's literally like, yeah, Judaism is about fully and uncritically supporting the nation state of Israel. And in order to do that, you have to get along with all these anti-Semites, you know? And if you don't do that, you're a bad Jew, basically.
The peace and security for Jews as a single ethno-national state has not worked.
This is totally true. And again, this is why I remind people, being anti-Zionist is absolutely a pro-Jewish, well, it's not necessarily a pro-Jewish position. You can be anti-Zionist and an anti-Semite, right? But I think that there is a form of anti-Zionism that is very pro-Jewish. And I think a lot of that just stems from the fact that not only, like, again, Zionists will say that Israel is the only safe place in the world for Jews, but then they'll talk about how Israel is constantly under threat and must always be at arms and must conscript all of its citizens and must always be defending and must always blah, 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 because we're surrounded by enemies. We have enemies within, enemies without. And it's like, dog, do you feel safe?
So therefore, you believe Jews would be more secure if there weren't a Jewish state and it was just a Jewish and Muslim state.
And Christian. I mean, I think
I do think that. I think that things started off really bad, but I think that if Israel, like, if we could just right the wrongs and make Israel just the state that is the Holy Land and have it be democratic and have it be jointly controlled by full citizens of Islamic, Jewish, and Christian faith. They all lay claim to the Holy Land, right? It's their Holy Land. It's the Abrahamic religion. They all want it, you know. The only reason Christians are okay with Israel being Jewish is because America knows it controls Israel, right? Like, Christians are okay with Jews occupying the Holy Land because it's kind of on our terms, you know? They're not like a rogue state, though they sure have been acting that way lately.
You believe Jews would be more secure with majority Arab rule.
I think absolutely a multi-ethnic society could be set up. I mean, listen, this is the same thing that people...
Notice how for Israel, Prager is invoking the exact same white nationalist rhetoric that you hear from American white nationalists, where you say, essentially, I think it's okay to let immigrants in, and their response is, oh, so you want this country to be controlled by that group, you know? It is true that if Israel had completely full and open borders, that it would not be Jewish majority for long, but like no country on earth has open borders.
Said about South Africa.
Look, I got to leave it that because we've talked so long.
Okay. Well, Dennis, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me.
The listener decide.
Thank you.
But I think you need to be honest with yourself. If you believe that
I am being honest with
Zionist
myself,
project
Dennis,
is a failure, it is not that surprising that your son would have demonstrated against Israel on his campus.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't characterize the demonstration
St. Petersburg, Florida. Corey, hello.
All right.
Yes, hello, Dennis. Since October...
Well, it was fun while it lasted, Sam.
I can't believe you got on that long. And you've spoken to him before, right? Like, he supposedly knows your voice.
Well, I mean, I don't.
You got on for like a second the one time, and he
hung up immediately.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I mean, it was nice to be able to reach his audience, and you know, I don't think I went super hard, but to have that long of a time.
No, that was good. Clearly, Dennis found something compelling about it for that conversation to have continued for that long. It's a radio show. Like, if Sam Seder ever, like, burst out and went like, aha, I've caught you, then they would simply, like, cut his call, you know? So, obviously, like, it could only ever be a conversation, but that was still pretty fun.